The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and it must be Friday, and indeed it is. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park Money Radio Studios, 1510 AM, 105.3 FM, and the World Wide Web, moneyradio1510.com. If this is your first time tuning into our show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And how do they do that? They do by listening right here. Not to me, but to these extraordinary guests that I've had on my show for almost 10 years. January will be my 10th year doing this, and I'm really pleased to have in the studio with me. I want to cut right to it. Sharon Harper, who's a really good friend, and it's been since August 15th, 2014 since you've donned our studio. So good to have you here with us. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
What an honor to be here. I'm excited.
So for those that don't know, Sharon Harper is the CEO of Plaza Companies, and Plaza Companies is a company that does a lot of real estate, and she's been known here in the Valley for her real estate ventures and some of the buildings and some of the awesome things that have been done right here in the community. And, you know, for our listeners, I'd love to, because we started talking about it before the show started, really talk about the beginnings of Plaza Companies, because this community has just grown so much. Even in the 8 years that you've been here, there's some surprises that happened in Central Phoenix that I do want you to talk about and evolve to when you talk about Plaza Companies.
We're celebrating our 40th year this year. Yeah. The company was founded 40 years ago, and it was really founded around the premise of healthcare, better healthcare, more accessible healthcare, and opportunities for seniors. And at the time, we were in the West Valley, and that was the focus of our operation. And during that time, we were able to pioneer many concepts and projects and opportunities that enhanced the healthcare service community and particularly enhanced the lifestyle for our seniors. What an exciting venture it has all been.
It has been amazing, and I've been doing this for my home care company. My family's business is 28 years. We're not quite there at 40, and it's great accomplishment, so congratulations. Happy 40th anniversary. When I first experienced Plaza Companies 20 years ago, it was really knowing your properties in the West Valley, because you were working with commercial buildings, communities that were built, really innovation, right around where, Del Webb had started and had started, maybe a decade or two before. You just propelled and built onto that.
Well, the residents in the Del Webb communities needed a lot of services. They weren't really being provided exactly what we felt the new services needed to be. So more physician offices, the collaboration between physician practices to make going to the doctor just a whole lot easier, more collaboration. And so we started a project that used to be a cotton field, almost 200 acres,
wow,
right next to Sun City. It was the county at the time. Now it's the city of Peoria. And with that, up and down a beautiful boulevard we created now is almost 500,000 square feet of medical office and healthcare facilities. It is the hub for superb services. But we were starting to hear from those tenants, those doctors, that seniors were saying to their physicians, what do we do when we don't want to own a home in Sun City? We're not interested in a nursing facility. That's not what we want.
Right.
And it was really that created this innovative approach by our company to say, what are best practices around the United States? Let's go look at those. Let's find out what is happening elsewhere, and let's bring that back to Arizona. And the Plaza del Rio campus
Yes.
is really the example of best practices, the first in many, many different product types. I think the first congregate rental facility, the first assisted living, and proudly the first for-profit continuing care retirement community, CCRC. As a matter of fact, because it's governed by the state of Arizona Department of Insurance, we had to help write the legislation for that to come to Arizona. But we had
Wow.
seen that so fantastic in Philadelphia, New York, and Florida. We wanted those kinds of services and even enhancing them further for the residents of this state. And that's what we started. We pioneered this industry in many ways.
You did.
And now to see this through Scottsdale, through the Southeast Valley, through our entire community, really is serving a great population.
Well, you're an innovator, and I did not know that you went to all these other cities to find who was doing it and how they were doing it, and you were taking the best of breed and bringing it here. And that whole Plaza del Rio campus and that whole sector is fascinating, because I remember seeing it 20 years ago, and I'd never seen anything like that.
Before anyone knew what a mixed-use community was, and we hear that all the time now in
Right.
development, Plaza del Rio was the first. Medical office, seniors housing, commercial, restaurants, walkability, transportation, connectivity with foundations with our city. It's just all there, and so proud of what was created. And it did take innovation, and every day in our industry, innovation is what drives us to do something bigger, better, different.
And it's interesting, a lot of people think of innovation, they think of technology, right? It doesn't have to be technology. It's bundling those services that you just described, bringing them together. The concept of a CCRC was a dream, 25, 30 years ago, but now communities are, putting together independent living, assisted living, skilled nursing, and now memory care has really taken off, and a lot of these communities have to offer memory care.
Residents want best-in-class services. They want it to be accessible, affordable, and we were able to do that. But honestly, listening to our future residents, listening to seniors, what is their vision, that really helped us, because innovation really comes from that end user who thinking about these things, and we were able to create it. It's been an amazing partnership with our senior residents, with our communities, and in our industry as well.
Well, what's interesting too, and I want to talk about some of the properties that are up here in Scottsdale, but what's interesting, and I'd love to hear your take on this, and if we can talk about it here in the first segment, we will. We may have to bounce to the second, and that is the demographic shift. So now we have baby boomers that are now, needing these types of services, and because they want these types of services, that doesn't mean they want it in the same way the silent generation did, right? They want it differently. They want, maybe a sports bar inside the community, whatever that is. We have to be able to adapt and innovate to their needs.
Our communities, V at Greyhawk and V at Silverstone, are best in class.
I couldn't agree
and
more.
they really push the envelope on innovation, on how people are served, the programs, the activities, the excitement of living there, the opportunities for philanthropy, for volunteerism, for participation in the community. All of that is there and set a bar very high. And we're so proud of that. And that's how we continue as we move forward in any of our industries. We don't say this is the best and do it the same. This is the best, how do we improve that? What do those residents recommend to us? What do these tenants recommend to us? How can we be different? How can we be on the front? So be it Greyhawk and be it Silverstone, amazing.
Couldn't agree more, and really set the bar for a lot of these other communities that did come in behind V at Greyhawk. V of Greyhawk was the first, and then V Silverstone. Well, we're up against a break, so let's break now, and we'll be back in our second segment. I want to talk a little bit more about this and then delve into some of the other things you're doing. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I got Sharon Harper in the studio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we are in our second segment. If you are just tuning in, I have Sharon Harper here in the studios with me. She's the chairman and CEO of Plaza Companies, and if you missed our first segment, you really have to tune in because Sharon really laid the groundwork on her beginnings into this company that she has, this incredible organization, Plaza Companies, back in 1982, if my math is right. She's in her 40th year. And we talked about a lot of things. So go up to cypresshomecare.com, click on the media button right below its radio show. You'll catch this one and many, many more. So Sharon, when we left off in the first segment, we were talking about these communities, and you talked about Plaza del Rio, you talked about innovation. You really shaped the way senior living was for Arizona back in those days. And then you went here to Scottsdale and you created this company called Classic Residence at first, a Greyhawk, and now it's called the Via Greyhawk. And then several years later, you created what was on the, what was the name of the property that was? It's
Los Arcos Mall. Are you
well,
thinking
Los
about that?
No, I'm talking about the where the Silverstone is.
Oh, Rawhide.
Rawhide, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So if for those that live here a long time, they know Rawhide. Rawhide was an incredible place, a destination for us to bring our kids, because I used to take my kids there. And Sharon and her team developed what is now called V Silverstone. And you guys stood that up right before the last, technically we're not in a recession, but I think we are. But the one prior to that in like 2008, 2009. And you guys got through that. I mean, standing up a property like that had to be very difficult because you had a lot of carrying costs, overhead, and all of a sudden, boom, the wind got taken out of our sails. No one knew where we were going. But, after a couple of years, and it may have been less than a couple of years, you guys regained your momentum and filled that place, and that place is winning all kinds of awards and doing amazing things in our community. And you talked a little bit about it in our first segment at the end, some of the activities that you get involved in, how not only is the CCRC operating on all cylinders, but you bring a lot of resources in and you take the residents out so they get really involved in the community. And that is really to be commended.
The residents at Viet Greyhawk and Viet Silverstone are literally the who's who of America, the who's who of Phoenix.
Right.
Amazing people. I learn something every day from one of our residents. And what is so great is that they're very integrated in the community. When Viet Greyhawk was developed, Honor Health built a hospital just to the north. Our residents were there front and center as volunteers, as philanthropists, helping that out. Viet Silverstone, the Appaloosa Library,
Right.
built by the city of Scottsdale. Guess who their greatest group of volunteers are? Those residents. They know how to do things. They know what to do. They're really engaged. And let me just say, the transition of Rawhide to Silverstone during the recession, Larry Van Tile and his group, they did not take their eye off the ball. They came through on everything that we had promised our residents, the infrastructure, the parks, the library. And though everything else slowed down, we didn't. We built the community, residents moved in, and as the master developer, the Van Tile Group, they were outstanding in seeing that through as well. So much admiration.
Amazing. And look what happens when you put a good team together and everybody hits on all cylinders. I mean, it really does take a team, and it takes a community to really build this.
It's about a team. It's about a great partnership. Our partnership with V Living, the Pritzker family, unbelievable, going on 27 years as partners.
And the city of Scottsdale, you put a library there, and Honor Health. I mean, if I had a loved one that needed to go into a community, why wouldn't I pick the V Silverstone or V Greyhawk? Both are 5-star type properties, but they're right next to a hospital. And if mom or dad needs to go get seen, they don't necessarily even need to go by ambulance. You could probably, you put them in a chair and wheel them over there.
Yeah, and not only that, the views, the mountains, our residents are out hiking, walking,
Yeah, the
shopping.
McDowells are gorgeous.
It's an economic engine for the whole North Scottsdale region.
All right, so as we wind down the second segment here, COVID happened in March of 2020. Tell me, how did that affect those communities and other communities that Plaza Company was involved in?
COVID was a terrifying situation for senior communities, congregate living settings all across America. Proactively, our communities did what it took to protect our residents and to protect our staff, and we did that very well. People did not get sick. They appreciated it. They appreciated the intense loyalty to make that happen. But I will tell you that Plaza Companies, and myself particularly, really jumped into gear on the personal protective equipment. You may recall that people couldn't get surgical masks, including our biggest hospitals here in the region. My daughter, a frontline internal medicine physician at Banner Health, they were struggling. So I personally wanted to see how could I get these masks here? How could I get them to our communities? How could I get them to our partners' communities around the country? Jumped into gear, found a way to do that with a partner, Marco Lopez. We formed partnerships that had influence with China to get product here. And at the end of the day, we bought 13 million masks into the state of Arizona, got them stored with a colleague in a safe warehouse, and Governor Ducey provided the National Guard to us to do the distribution. They're great at logistics, as you know.
Of course.
And every corner of the state of Arizona, healthcare facility, community facility, anything like that, the National Guard then delivered our masks. It was a phenomenal 24/7 nonstop effort for months. We did it. We made a difference. Now, of course, we can get that. We're working on productions here in America so that our country does not get into this situation again. But at the time, even when the White House couldn't get these masks, we got them for the state of Arizona.
You know, Sharon, I feel like I've gotten to know you over the years. That is something that nobody really knows. And you never do that kind of stuff for the accolades. You do it because it's the right thing and to take care of the community. And you were fearful for your daughter and many people like her that they may get this disease or infection, this disease. To be commended. Wow, that is awesome. And really, you know, when you sit down and you think about it, your daughter works for Banner. You're on the board of Banner. I used to be on the board of Banner. Very involved and certainly a benefactor to Honor Health. Those two institutions during COVID, how they stepped up with the vaccinations and everything like that is nothing short of phenomenal.
It was phenomenal. In addition, ASU inventing the swipe test.
Yes.
Blue Cross Blue Shield, our National Guard, our governor. It took all of us. Hard to get it right. Things kept changing.
Of course.
We did a pretty good job.
I remember talking to Todd Laporte from Honor Health, and he said when the first phase obviously was healthcare workers, and then they opened it up to older adults. And one of the things he said was, we realized as soon as we opened it up to older adults, we needed more spotter potties because the older adults would be in line and they definitely needed to use the bathroom a little more often. So it was one of those things where you had to think on your feet and just be able to, perfect it and continuously improve it as the time went on. Those were scary times, and I'm just so glad we got through it. And I'm so glad, Sharon, that you played a big role in protecting so many of our frontline workers with the PPE that you were able to secure. Well, it's hard to believe we're almost down 2 segments, and I really want to talk about something that's really near and dear to me. Two institutions that you really were a big influence over, and one is SkySong, which is a partnership with ASU, and then the other one is the partnership that you have with Creighton University down at Park Central Mall. And for those that don't know, Park Central Mall was like the place to be. It was it the 50s or early 60s?
It was the 50s.
It was
built
the
in
50s.
1957.
1957, and it was like the first mall of its kind in like Western America. I mean, people drove miles to come there. And it was a destination because of all these retail shops were there. Obviously, there were food products there as well, restaurants there. But it really, was the place to be. But for those of us that have lived here, not so long ago, but in the 90s and early 2000s, I mean, Park Central was kind of tired. It was tired. I mean, some of the shops had closed. Miracle Mile was always one of my favorites for lunch, but you really revitalized that, and I want to really spend a lot of time talking about Creighton. And then Sky Song, when you were last here in 2014, we talked about that, and it was one of the newer projects, and that place is still thriving and growing, and I love what ASU has done, not only in our community, but really worldwide. The universities have campuses worldwide and really making a difference in really the students that they're graduating and the material that they're covering. It's really a thing to see. And I would imagine you have a really special relationship with Dr. Michael Crow. So you're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. My name is Bob Roth. I got Sharon Harper here in the studio. Stick around. We're going to talk about Sky Song, and we're going to talk about Creighton University.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I like that Steely Dan, James. Thank you. We're in our second half here. If you are just tuning in, I've got Sharon Harper in the studio. She is the chairman and CEO of Plaza Companies. And if you missed our first half, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button right below its radio show. You'll catch this one and many, many more. So in the first two segments, we really talked about the early beginnings of Plaza Companies and really, Sharon's foray into this real estate market in 1982, and she's in her 40th year. And we talked about, Plaza del Rio. We talked about the physician practices and really the innovation that she really brought to the West Valley, and then carried it forward right here to Scottsdale with the creation, or should I say partnership with the Pritzker family and the Classic Residence by Hyatt that was here first with Greyhawk, and then Greyhawk and Silverstone are now V Silverstone, V Greyhawk, and they are premier properties. And as Sharon brought up, it's so true. So many people tour through there to see how they do things, and they try to emulate them, but I'm not so sure they're as good. But certainly V has definitely raised the bar for others to follow. But, when we left off in the second segment, we really talked about some of the more current things that Plaza Companies and Sharon has been working on. And that is Sky Song. We'll talk about that real briefly because we talked about that 8 years ago. And then I want to jump into Creighton University. So Sky Song was supposed to be a arena for the Coyotes. And as I shared with you, your friend, and I would consider my friend, Senator John McCain and his wife Cindy, I met them at the Coyotes arena, not in Glendale, but down in Phoenix. And I think we were all hoping that the arena was going to be built there, but that was not to be. And it was a premier piece of land. And please share with us, how did Sky Song come to be?
Well, this is another story of innovation for sure. The new president of Arizona State University, Michael Crow, only been here a year. And there was the fiasco about the property, the old Los Arcos Mall, and then the Coyotes. And then is it going to be some kind of a back office, not highest and best used property? And Dr. Crow and the then mayor of Scottsdale talked, could this be something that could create an innovative job creation, new way to do business for the state of Arizona? They were looking for a private partner, and that was Plaza Companies. That became Plaza Companies. And together, we took that vision of Michael Crow, and that came to be at the old Los Arcos Mall. Now, almost 800,000 square feet of fabulous award-winning office buildings, hotel, restaurants, multifamily. It's all there. That's Sky Song. And more to come. We'll be announcing future buildings at Sky Song as well. But what this created was a transformation in this part of Scottsdale. Things were suffering there with the new freeway coming in. The stores were boarding up. Businesses were going out of business. Property values were going down. Sky Song transformed that. It was the catalyst for the transformation, increase in values, so much activity, great lifestyle. All of that now is paramount to that part of Scottsdale. And those jobs that have been created has really elevated the reputation of our state nationally and internationally. So proud to be partners with ASU and the city of Scottsdale.
You know, for those that don't know, it's Scottsdale Road and McDowell is the corner that we're talking about. And it is such a prestigious piece of property. But I think the thing that anyone who's driven by it that is really startled by is just the architecture. You know, just it kind of looks, maybe a little bit like the airport in Denver. Just it's got just such attractive design. And beyond the design, when you dig deeper in, that is where the university is, and it's not just the university. It's a lot of stuff that is born out of the university. So there are so many startup companies there, innovation companies. The School of Engineering, is doing their what is it, Desert Devil or hackathon, whatever it is. For people trying to innovate and come up with the newest and greatest, so that they can Venture Devils, I think it is, so they can get funding to be able to get their concept or service or product up to market. So it really is a fascinating place to be, and it is always buzzing. I really love being there.
Well, you're talking about branding in a way. We wanted a sense of identity, a sense of place. We wanted it to be about shade and resilience and active lifestyle for the workers there. So you see that iconic shade structure that really created a center point, a heartbeat, if you will, to that part of town, but particularly to Sky Song. And all of the development works around that. So indeed, it was such an attraction. It's a magnet for companies, a magnet for workforce, and it is well recognized around the country as a result of that.
And it's really close to ASU. I mean, when you look at the ASU campuses that are downtown, that's a schlep. But this is just down the street over at McDowell and Scottsdale Road, so it's easy to get to.
So many of the companies that are there, they might not have come out of ASU, but ASU is training the workforce. The number one reason companies make decisions about where they're moving. So ASU is there creating the courses and the job training for these companies, and there's a special relationship between ASU and the companies, in addition to ASU being a partner here at Sky Song. So the concept was highly innovative, and I would say not a week goes by where we don't have a president of a university or a mayor or a governor or an economic development professional from around the country touring Sky Song to say, how did you ever do this? And how can we do it in our community?
Right, and you were able to do it with all the stuff that was going around it. I do remember Sheriff Joe parking like a tank there and having signs there. I mean, it's amazing how that whole Los Arcos area is really revived and revitalized. So kudos to you. And Dr. Crow, I've seen him speak a couple times. He's got such a great vision for the future. I remember hearing him last speak saying that 20 years from now, 80% of the degrees, if not more, haven't even been created yet, and they will be created right here at ASU. So what a great mind and a great leader.
Arizona should be so thankful for the leadership of all of our universities, but Arizona State University, it is the economic engine for our region. It is behind most everything that happens in one way or another. We have a lot to celebrate with a university like that.
We do, and I will say this, you would think that you went to ASU, but you didn't. Where'd you go?
Well, I was in the School of Journalism at Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska, and coming from a little town in Minnesota, I thought I'd landed in Paris when I first saw Omaha.
Wow.
I loved going to Creighton, loved the Jesuit mission, loved the training, thought it was just great.
And you were a journalism major. I did not know that. And, you know, we're almost up against a break, but tell me, is that where you met Mr. Harper?
My husband was
Dr. Harper, I'm sorry. Dr. Harper?
Well, it was Mr. Harper at the time. He was in medical school at Creighton. He came from New York. He did not think Omaha looked like Paris, but the education was amazing. We met, we got married after graduation, and he accepted a position here in the Southwest with what was called Good Samaritan Hospital at the time, now Banner University. That brought us to Arizona. We fell in love with everything here, the opportunities, the lifestyle, and what could be. And we're part of what is.
Right.
And that's how we came to Arizona.
You know, I've always felt like Arizona was like 20 or 30 years behind in terms of development than the eastern half of the country or the Midwest. And I'm sure going back to those days, you think about it because you knew what Omaha looked like, and Ollie, Dr. Harper, knew exactly what New York looked like and figured, you know what, we're here. We could develop this to look like those places in the next few years. Well, hard to believe we're down 3 segments. I really wanted to talk about Creighton, so I'm going to save the 4th segment to talk about Creighton University and the partnership with Plaza Companies and what they have done right here in Phoenix, Central Phoenix, and revitalized Central Phoenix where the Park Central Mall is. Very similar to what you did with Los Arcos with SkySong. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. Down 3, we got 1 more to go. Stick around. Got Sharon Harper in the studio. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth. And if you're just tuning in, we're in our 4th segment. I've got Sharon Harper here in the studio with me. She's the chairman and CEO of Plaza Companies. If you've missed the first 3 segments, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button, 3rd button down. Actually, it's the 1st button down. It's radio show. I'm talking really fast because I want to talk to you, Sharon, and you have really, you know, filled our studio with some great information, stories about Plaza Companies, stories about you, stories about PPE and how you were on the front line being able to secure 13 million surgical masks for our county, our state, for the healthcare workers that were working the front line. And my hat's off to you. And I know many of the others here in Arizona feel the same way. So we left off in the 3rd segment. We were talking about ASU, and then I said, well, you didn't even go to ASU. You went to Creighton. And you talked a little bit about meeting your husband there and him being from New York, you being from Minnesota, and then him taking a position with what was called Samaritan Healthcare as a doctor coming here after you guys got married and graduated. So Creighton University is here now. A lot of their students were here before because they did their rotations and stuff, and I have to believe that Dr. Harper probably had a play in that too. But Dr. Harper and you were very instrumental in bringing the university campus, medical campus, to that Park Central Mall. So please tell more.
Well, Creighton University is an amazing institution, a 124-year-old Jesuit institution in Omaha, Nebraska, and highly acclaimed in all of the professional studies, but particularly healthcare and medical office. So 15 years ago, the president of Creighton received a phone call from Linda Hunt, the CEO of St. Joseph's Hospital, saying,
wow,
we need more physicians in our region. And that's when the rotation started. And then some of the medical physicians, including Dr. Harper, were part of an advisory board that worked with Creighton to then have them begin thinking about a full-blown, top-of-the-line medical school here in the Phoenix region. An amazing, amazing effort when you are institutionally aligned in the Midwest. That happened. Creighton started to look at this, and they were welcomed with open arms. We are a state that has terrible physician-patient ratios, not enough doctors to serve, not enough doctors in our rural communities, not enough nurses, physical, occupational therapy. Creighton answered the call for all of these services. They began to look about where they wanted to locate, and through some introductions, I became involved. And we looked at a number of sites on the light rail, but near the hospitals that they were affiliated with, St. Joe's, Barrow Neurological Institute, Valley Wise, and the VA and Children's Hospital, so in that central core. And ultimately, they chose Park Central. But let's talk about why they chose the Park Central site, and we'll talk about Park Central later. The students needed to be in a hub where medical students work hard 24/7. Creighton did not want to build an entire campus with amenities, with transportation, hotels for the families. Park Central was then being renovated and proposed to have all of these things, so Creighton made the choice there. The students are close to their alliance, which are the healthcare providers where the students train, and where after graduation the residency slots are very important, because those are the doctors who stay in our region. Really important. So Creighton, largest Catholic healthcare provider in the country.
Wow.
Very prestigious institution. Last year the building itself won every award for great architecture and impact in the community. Very proud of that, because Plaza Companies was their developer.
Sure.
Worked closely with Creighton. And they did so many extra things to make a difference for our community. They didn't need to put in a large gathering space. They call it a ballroom. Outdoor patios where community organizations can come and utilize that space to elevate their presence in the community. Creighton did that. They've formed partnerships with St. Vincent de Paul that are unbelievable partnerships. Partnerships in discussion with TGen, with SARC. They formed partnerships with Arizona State University. Being a trustee for both of these institutions, which I am, I really wanted the two presidents to meet right away, Dr. Crow and Father Daniel Hendrickson. They met. The cultures.
They complement one another.
Largest public institution in the country.
Yeah.
And a private Jesuit healthcare. They complemented each other.
And ASU doesn't have a medical school. They got a nursing and innovation school, but they didn't have a medical school.
They formed five partnerships from the get-go.
Right.
They're working together. That's how you elevate our community, by leveraging these relationships. Creighton is off and running. The applications are tremendous. The quality is great. They're right now building out what was the 6th floor, which we didn't build out at the beginning because Governor Ducey, in his astute evaluation of what the state needed, is a scholarship program to fast-track nurses. And Creighton is so well positioned. And look, who would have known how much we needed this? The pandemic really brought that out, the inequality, the disparity of healthcare services. Creighton is all over that with scholarships, opportunities for people to attend that medical school. It's a transformational asset to the state of Arizona.
An economic boom, too. Just think about all the money that is coming in here and the people that are coming here. I mean, it is helping pay for the infrastructure that really we need to exist. And I think that's phenomenal. And I like the close proximity to all the, all the ancillary things, right? The most important thing being St. Joe's and Barrows and certainly, you talked about Valley Wise and places that they need to go to get their training and get their clinicals and things like that. So we have a little less than 2 minutes left. And, I want to ask you two questions before we end. First is, one, how do you do all this? Because you're a mom, you're a grandmother, you're the chairman and CEO of an incredible organization, but you're also a trustee at the Virginia Piper Foundation. You're also a trustee at ASU and a trustee over at Creighton University, and you're probably a trustee at some of the other places. How do you do that? And then if we can get to it, is really, where do you see the future?
Well, I'm proud to be a part of all these organizations because I think being successful as a company, you do have an obligation to be involved in the community, to elevate the opportunities, both philanthropically, serving on boards, but also in the political sector. And so I've been very engaged in politics. I chaired Governor Ducey's campaign. I chaired Sheriff Penzone's run because I thought for the brand of our state, these things are
I agree.
important. Somehow I'm able to do it. I'm all in when I'm doing it. It just is so important. It all ties together, and I think we're all better for it. Our company is, I am, my family. So, yes, we're a yes on things that make a difference.
Well, there are two types of people, I like to say. There are people that give you energy, and then that's the opposite, that take it away. You, Sharon, my friend, you give energy. You really fire me up. And I know Lauren is sitting here, and she's like, how do I do all the things that Sharon's able to do? I really need to get you back here because there's so much more I want to talk about the future, because the future could be a discussion unto itself, especially with aging. And you have really brought so much innovation to the whole aging community. And I think that it all started with Plaza del Rio and where you've taken it. Sharon Harper, thank you so much for being here in the studio with me. I know our listeners got a lot. I got a lot. You've been listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. Make it a great day. Have a great weekend. And please send my best to Dr. Harper. It was great seeing him at the event the other night. And by the way, congratulations for being one of the Titan 100s. And if it were my vote, you would have been number one as it relates to the Titan 100s. Make it a great day. We'll be back next week.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.